Welcome back to another video. Today, we're diving into one of the most infamous and heartbreaking cold cases in American history, the tragic story of JonBenet Ramsey. After nearly 3 decades of speculation, theories, and public obsession, new developments have emerged that suggest the mystery might finally be solved, but the truth isn't what many hoped for. In fact, it's far from comforting. It was Christmas morning in 1996, when the world first heard the name JonBenet Ramsey. A 6-year-old beauty pageant star found brutally murdered in the basement of her family's upscale Boulder, Colorado home. The crime scene was confusing, the clues contradictory, and the investigation botched from the start. From a suspicious ransom note written inside the home to a lack of forced entry, every detail seemed to generate more questions than answers. The public was hooked. Was it an intruder? Was it someone inside the house? Why did the ransom note ask for the exact amount of John Ramsey's Christmas bonus? And most importantly, why after all these years has no one been held accountable? Over time, the case became less about justice for a little girl and more about a media circus. TV specials, documentaries, and endless YouTube theories dissected every angle. Some pointed fingers at JonBenet's parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, while others believed her older brother Burke may have had something to do with it. And still, another camp held firmly to the idea that an unknown intruder slipped in, committed the unthinkable, and left without a trace. DNA evidence collected in the early 2000s briefly exonerated the immediate family members, only to later be thrown into question due to possible contamination. It was a mess, a painful, public mess, but now, nearly 30 years later, new forensic breakthroughs and behind-the-scenes revelations are painting a chilling picture, one that may finally bring the truth to light. Advances in genetic genealogy, similar to the techniques used to catch the Golden State Killer, have allowed investigators to revisit DNA samples collected from JonBenet's clothing. These samples, long thought to be inconclusive or irrelevant, have recently led to a previously unknown suspect, someone who wasn't even on the radar back in 1996. This individual, whose identity has not been officially released to the public yet due to ongoing legal proceedings, allegedly had a disturbing history of child abuse and had been living just a few miles away from the Ramsey home at the time of the murder. According to inside sources, law enforcement is now confident that the DNA match is no coincidence. A source close to the investigation has said that the genetic match is considered 99.99% conclusive and that the suspect had access to similar materials found at the scene, including the type of cord used to bind JonBenet and handwriting eerily similar to the ransom note. But here's where things take a dark turn. The suspect reportedly passed away a few years ago, meaning justice in a court of law may never be served. For the Ramsey family and the millions who followed the case for years, this revelation is a bitter pill to swallow. Closure without justice. Answers without accountability. Even more disturbing are allegations that this suspect may have been looked at early in the investigation, but was dismissed due to procedural errors and the tunnel vision surrounding the Ramsey family. If that turns out to be true, it would mean that JonBenet's killer could have been stopped had the original investigation not been so flawed. It's a sobering reminder of how a combination of media frenzy, public pressure, and police missteps can derail even the most critical of cases. In light of these new findings, the Boulder Police Department is facing renewed scrutiny. Critics argue that their obsession with pinning the crime on the Ramseys caused them to overlook viable leads. Legal experts and former detectives who worked the case are now coming forward, expressing regret and frustration over how evidence was mishandled, suspects were ignored, and how political pressure played a role in the direction of the investigation. Some are calling for a full independent review of the case files and the department's actions in the early days of the crime. But perhaps the saddest part of all is that JonBenet's story, even after all these years, still ends in tragedy. The truth may have come to light, but it doesn't undo the years of pain her family endured, the damage to their reputations, or the childhood cut violently short. It doesn't change the fact that a little girl with a bright smile and big dreams never had a chance to grow up. And for many, the knowledge that the person responsible will never face a jury is a haunting end to an already devastating story. As we reflect on the legacy of the JonBenet Ramsey case, we're reminded that justice isn't always clean. Sometimes the answers we get don't bring peace but more heartbreak. The public may now finally know what happened in that house on Christmas night, but the emotional wounds left behind may never fully heal. The mystery may be solved, but the ending, tragically, isn't good.